A happy little family. In the cozy suburbs of Austin, Texas, life had always been kind to Lisa. She lived in a charming two-story house adorned with flower-filled window boxes and a rocking chair on the porch that she used to sit on every evening with a warm cup of tea. A retired college professor, Lisa was known for her wit, wisdom, and a heart full of love, which she often poured out to her only son Michael. Michael was everything Lisa could have hoped for. A diligent software engineer in his late 20s, he had a quick wit and an unyielding curiosity that often reminded Lisa of herself in her younger years. He was the kind of son who remembered to call his mom every morning just to say, "Love you, Mom," and never failed to light up a room with his infectious laughter. But what made Lisa's heart swell with joy more than anything was seeing Michael find love. When Michael introduced Emily, a dynamic and spirited nurse from Houston, Lisa was immediately smitten. Emily had this infectious optimism, always pairing her sweet southern drawl with a twinkle in her eyes. She wasn't just a partner to Michael, it felt like she immediately became family to Lisa. Their wedding was nothing short of a dream. Held under the sprawling oak trees of a rustic outdoor venue, friends and family gathered to celebrate the couple's love. Emily walked down the aisle in a simple yet elegant lace gown, her face glowing with happiness. Michael couldn't take his eyes off her, and Lisa could see the pure adoration in her son's gaze. During the toast, Michael stood up holding a glass of champagne and said, "Mom, you told me to look for someone who feels like home. With Emily, I found that and so much more." The couple decided to move into a charming bungalow, just a few blocks from Lisa's home. Sunday dinners at Lisa's became a cherished tradition. Lisa would whip up Michael's favorite meatloaf recipe while Emily baked pecan pies that could melt the heart of anyone who tried them. Their evenings were filled with laughter, board games, and stories around the dining table, a warm haven where time seemed to stand still. Every moment was filled with joy, from impromptu trips to the nearby farmer's market, to watching Emily and Michael plant a small vegetable garden in their backyard. Lisa often joked, "You two are so perfect together that if I had to pinch myself to make sure it's real, I'd already have bruises." Life seemed endless in its beauty and promise. Lisa had never felt more blessed. For her, the real wealth wasn't in her retirement savings or the possessions in her home. It was in the giggles shared while playing with Emily and Michael's adopted Labrador puppy, the quiet moments sipping sweet iced tea on the porch together, or the hugs that felt just a little too tight but perfect. Little did Lisa know, this beautiful chapter was about to change. The happiness she cherished so deeply would soon be overshadowed by trials and heartache, ones that she never anticipated but ultimately led her to uncover love and hope in a way she could never have imagined. An unexpected tragedy. It was a cool, crisp October afternoon when Lisa's world came crashing down. She had just returned from the local farmer's market, her basket brimming with fresh apples and cinnamon sticks to bake Michael's favorite cobbler for the weekend. As she placed the basket on the kitchen counter, she noticed her phone vibrating insistently on the table. The name on the screen made her stomach twist. Unknown caller. Answering reluctantly, Lisa was met with the sharp beeping and indistinct sounds of a busy hospital in the background. "Hello? This is Lisa Parker," she said, her voice laced with curiosity and a tinge of apprehension. A calm but somber voice broke through. "Mrs. Parker, this is Dr. Reynolds from St. Anthony's General Hospital. There's been an accident involving Michael." Lisa felt her knees weaken as her body involuntarily gripped the edge of the counter for balance. "What do you mean an accident? He was at work this morning. I just talked to him." Her voice cracked, the cheerful anticipation of the cobbler completely forgotten. "Ma'am," Dr. Reynolds said gently, sensing the fear in her voice. "He was involved in a major collision on the highway earlier this afternoon. We've done everything we can, but I'm so sorry." The words felt like a bullet piercing her chest. For a moment, everything sounded muffled, her own heartbeat, the faint hum of the refrigerator, it all blurred into a surreal nightmare. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "You must be mistaken. My Michael, he's fine. He's always so safe on the road. Michael wouldn't—" The doctor's voice remained steady, yet full of sympathy. "I understand this is unimaginable, Mrs. Parker, but I'm afraid your son didn't survive the crash. I wish there was more we could have done." Her grip on the phone weakened as it slipped through her trembling fingers, clattering onto the hardwood floor. Tears streamed uncontrollably down her face as an unrecognizable wail escaped her lips. She didn't know how long she stood there, frozen, staring at nothing. A warm autumn afternoon had metamorphosed into the darkest, coldest moment of her life. A few hours later, Emily arrived at Lisa's door, her face pale, her eyes rimmed red from crying. Without saying a word, she collapsed into Lisa's arms, and together they sank onto the living room couch. Emily's body shook with heavy sobs, and Lisa could barely hold herself up. "Why, Lisa?" Emily choked out through clenched teeth. "Why would this happen to him? We just started our life together. How am I supposed to go on without him?" Lisa wanted to comfort her, but words failed her. She could barely process her own grief. Michael was her son, her everything. But as she looked into Emily's devastated eyes, Lisa realized she wasn't mourning alone. They were both drowning, clinging to what little remained of Michael's presence. "We'll get through this," Lisa murmured, running her fingers through Emily's hair. "I don't know how, but we'll figure it out together." For days after the accident, the house was filled with silence, except for the occasional sniffles and the shuffle of feet. Photos of Michael stared at them from the fireplace mantel, each one feeling like a cruel reminder of what they'd lost. Emily spent hours in Michael's room, hugging his old sweatshirts and sobbing uncontrollably. Lisa tried to be strong for her daughter-in-law, but every step felt like walking on the jagged edges of broken glass. When it came time to plan the funeral, Lisa found strength she didn't know she had to give Michael the farewell he deserved. Emily selected a song Michael loved, and Lisa delivered the eulogy, recounting a story that brought tears and laughter to the gathered crowd. Standing by Michael's casket during the service, Lisa whispered, "Oh, sweetheart, you were my heart, my sunshine. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'll keep going. For you. I'll take care of Emily, I promise." After the service, Emily clung to Lisa as they walked to the car. "I don't know if I can go back to that house," Emily said quietly, her voice barely audible through the whirlwind of the chilly fall wind. Lisa nodded in understanding. "Take your time," she said softly. "Whenever you're ready, you can come stay with me. No pressure. You don't have to face this alone." Emily hesitated for a moment before nodding. "Thank you, Lisa. I don't know what I'd do without you." The days turned to weeks, and the house once filled with laughter and the smell of Michael's favorite pastries felt hauntingly empty. Lisa tried to distract herself by baking or tending to the garden, but nothing could fill the void he had left. One rainy evening as they sat in the living room, Emily broke the silence, her voice shaking. "Lisa, there's something I need to tell you." Lisa looked up, her heart sinking at the shaky tone in Emily's voice. "What is it, dear?" Emily wrung her hands nervously but managed a small, almost hopeful smile. "I just found out I'm pregnant." For a moment, Lisa stared at Emily in stunned disbelief. "You, what?" she breathed, her voice trembling. Emily nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I know it won't bring Michael back, but his child will still be here. A part of him will still live on." Lisa felt her chest tighten as fresh tears poured out. She reached out and pulled Emily into a tight embrace, both women holding on to each other as if their lives depended on it. "Oh, Emily," Lisa whispered through her sobs, This is a miracle. Michael's baby. I don't care what happens in this world, this baby will know every single thing about their father. I'll make sure of it." That night, as Lisa lay in bed staring at the ceiling, she felt as though a glimmer of light had pierced through the heavy blanket of grief. Michael was gone, but his memory, his spirit, it would carry on through the tiny life growing inside of Emily. Yet neither of them could have anticipated the challenges and revelations that were treading closer, threatening to cast another shadow on their fragile hope. Those days of happy preparation. The moment Emily announced her pregnancy, it was as though a flicker of hope reignited the dim glow in Lisa's heart. Grief was still ever present, but now it wasn't the only thing that consumed her. A new life, a continuation of Michael's, was growing. It was enough to push her to wake up each morning with renewed purpose. "Lisa, I feel huge already and I'm barely starting to show," Emily exclaimed, her fingers tracing the faint bump under her loose cotton dress. Lisa chuckled, setting down a tray of iced lemon water onto the small table in the sunlit nook of the kitchen. "Emily, you look radiant. That baby of yours, well, ours, is going to be surrounded by so much love." Emily smiled faintly, brushing back a strand of her auburn hair. "I just wish Michael were here." Her voice faltered, a familiar quiver of sadness sneaking in. Lisa reached over, clasping Emily's hand warmly. "Me too, sweetheart. But you know what? He's still with us. In every laugh, in every story you're going to tell this baby about their daddy, he'll always be with us." Feeling emboldened by Lisa's words, Emily held her head a little higher. "You're right, and I know he'd be so proud of us." Planning for a little miracle. From that point on, Lisa threw herself into plans with Emily. Every waking moment seemed to revolve around this unborn grandchild, who had already become the center of their world. The first big event? Designing a nursery. "What do you think about this?" Lisa asked one Saturday morning as she stood in the empty spare room of her house. She held up a large wallpaper sample, a soft pastel pattern of baby animals frolicking in meadows. Emily squinted playfully. "Lisa, that's adorable, but are you sure this isn't just a little too much?" She giggled. "I mean, at this rate the baby will grow up thinking meadow animals are their only friends." Lisa pretended to be mock-offended, clutching her chest. "Emily, this is vintage chic! Besides, you only get one chance to plan your first grandchild's nursery, humor me." Emily laughed, nodding. "Okay, you win, vintage chic it is." The next several weeks saw the room slowly transform. Furniture shopping became their favorite pastime. They scoured the baby section at local stores, comparing cribs, bassinets, rocking chairs, and the all-important stuffed animals. "Emily, look at this rocking chair," Lisa said one afternoon at a home goods store, motioning towards a sleek but sturdy wooden chair. "I used one like this for Michael when he was a baby. I'd sit by this exact same window in the evenings rocking him to sleep under the stars." Emily caressed the armrest, imagining countless tender moments to come. "This one feels just right," she said softly. "It's not just a chair, it's a story we're continuing. Bonding over little joys." Amid these preparations, small but significant moments strengthened the bond between Lisa and Emily. They often found themselves laughing while sorting through adorable baby onesies or debating over tiny sneakers versus baby booties. "I still say these sneakers are overkill. Who's this baby running from? The IRS?" Lisa joked, holding up a pair of tiny, overpriced Nikes. Emily doubled over in laughter, nearly slipping out of her chair. "I think the idea is that they'll look cool during tummy time." Lisa snorted. "Cool? Honey, this baby doesn't need sneakers to be cool. They've already got Michael's jeans." The shopping trips weren't just about preparing for the baby. They were therapy, healing the shattered hearts of two grieving women. Each purchase felt symbolic, as though piece by piece, they were crafting a future they could both look forward to. The first ultrasound. One of the most emotional days for both women came when Emily had her first ultrasound appointment. Lisa insisted on coming along, rightfully claiming her spot as the excited grandmother-to-be. They sat together in the waiting room, the faint hum of the wall clock marking each second that passed. Lisa noticed Emily twisting the wedding ring on her finger, a habit of hers whenever she was nervous. "Are you scared?" Lisa asked gently. "A little," Emily admitted. "I mean, what if something's wrong?" Lisa placed an arm around her. "Honey, we'll be okay. And this baby? I have a feeling it's as stubborn and strong as its dad." When Emily lay on the examination table, her breath hitched as the ultrasound technician moved the probe around her belly. And then, like magic, the room filled with a gentle, rhythmic sound. The baby's heartbeat. "That's your child," the technician said softly, smiling at them both. Emily covered her mouth with her hand as tears spilled over. Lisa, who hadn't cried in someone's presence for weeks, found herself openly sobbing. "That's our little miracle," she whispered. "And the traditions begin." Over time, new routines emerged. Lisa started preparing meals rich in nutrients for Emily every weekend. Kale salads, roasted salmon with lemon butter, hearty chicken soup, you name it. Emily playfully complained about the constant flow of superfoods, but Lisa didn't let up. "You'll thank me when your baby's in the spelling bee at 6 years old," Lisa teased. "That kale is practically guaranteeing us a genius." "Oh, is that how it works?" Emily quipped, rolling her eyes good-naturedly. Beyond food, the two of them went to mommy-to-be yoga classes, scoured music shops for relaxing classical tracks, and even signed up for a parenting workshop together because you can never be too prepared. A glimpse into the future. As they painted a new chapter for the family, the pains of the past didn't disappear completely, but they had begun to fade, softened by love and tangible plans for the future. One evening back at home, Lisa and Emily sat on the porch sipping warm tea. The night sky was exceptionally clear, and the stars sparkled like diamonds. Emily leaned back, her hand resting over her growing belly. "Lisa," she said, "Do you think the baby will look more like Michael or me?" Lisa smiled, gazing up at the twinkling stars. "I think they'll take the best of both of you. But most importantly, I think your baby will have the same light in their eyes that Michael always had, the one that made everyone feel loved." Emily nodded, tears welling in her eyes again. "Thank you. For everything." Lisa reached out, placing her hand over Emily's. "I should be the one thanking you. You saved me, Emily. You gave me a reason to wake up in the morning." At that moment, the boundaries of a typical mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationship blurred. It was no longer about titles or societal roles. The only thing that mattered was the shared sense of purpose in their hearts, the determined love for the baby who was about to change both their lives forever. A seed of doubt. The day was unusually bright, the warmth of the sun pouring through the hospital's glass windows and splashing onto the polished floors. Lisa sat quietly in a small waiting area at Dr. Carter's clinic, flipping absent-mindedly through an old parenting magazine. Emily had gone in for her regular checkup, and Lisa was excited to hear about the baby's progress. She couldn't wait to ask questions about the due date, baby vitamins, or even get a peek at the ultrasound photo. As Lisa chewed on thoughts of baby names, a young nurse with curly blonde hair and round-rimmed glasses walked into the waiting area, her white sneakers squeaking softly against the floor. She glanced around nervously before stopping in front of Lisa. "Mrs. Parker?" she asked in a hushed tone. Lisa looked up, surprised. The nurse appeared slightly hesitant, almost as if she was debating whether to speak. "Yes?" Lisa responded, smiling politely but with a hint of curiosity. "Can I help you?" The nurse glanced over her shoulder as though worried someone might overhear. Her name tag read Linda, and her eyebrows were furrowed with what seemed like concern. Linda hesitated before leaning closer, her voice so soft that Lisa had to lean in. "I don't mean to alarm you, but you might want to keep an eye on Emily." Lisa frowned, her grip tightening slightly on the magazine in her hands. "I'm sorry?" she said, her tone unsure. "What exactly do you mean by that?" Linda looked around again, visibly nervous, before answering. "It's not my place to say. I just think you should be careful, that's all." Lisa's heart began to pound in her chest. What was this girl trying to tell her? Her concern turned into frustration as she tilted her head and said firmly, "If you've got something to say about Emily or my family, you'd better say it outright. What are you implying?" Linda shook her head quickly, stepping back. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything. Forget I mentioned it." She glanced down the hall as if someone could walk up at any moment. "I've already said too much." Lisa's stomach twisted as she watched Linda hurry away, disappearing through a set of swinging doors. She wanted to call after her, but something held Lisa back. Maybe it was the fear of hearing something she wasn't prepared for, or worse, the possibility that Linda's strange warning held truth. The walk to the car. By the time Emily came out of her appointment, glowing with happiness as she held an ultrasound photo, Lisa's mind was spinning. The nurse's cryptic warning kept replaying in her head, and no matter how much she tried, Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. "Look at this," Emily said, her smile wide as she handed Lisa the black and white photo. "You can see their little hand this time. Isn't it amazing?" Emily's energy was infectious, but Lisa's smile froze halfway. "It is," Lisa answered, trying to sound enthusiastic. She studied the photo, but her mind kept wandering to Linda's hesitant, nervous demeanor. On the drive home, Emily turned to Lisa, resting her hands on her purse in her lap. "I was thinking," she began, her tone light, "maybe we can do a garden-themed baby shower. You know, something neutral with lots of greens and whites." "That sounds beautiful," Lisa said automatically, her voice distracted. Emily noticed the shift in Lisa's mood. "You okay? You seem, quieter than usual." "Oh, I'm fine," Lisa replied quickly. "Just thinking about all the things we need to get ready, a lot to do, you know." Emily laughed softly. "That's the understatement of the year." She returned her gaze out the window, humming to herself, but Lisa gripped the steering wheel tightly, her knuckles white. A sleepless night. That evening, Lisa sat in her study, staring blankly at her laptop screen. She wasn't reading anything specific, her mind was consumed by fragments of Linda's warning. What did she mean by "keep an eye on Emily"? Was this about her pregnancy, her health, her finances? It could have been 1,000 different things, but the ambiguity gnawed at Lisa like an itch she couldn't scratch. She tried to replay every interaction with Emily over the past few months. Had there been any red flags, anything unusual? No. Emily had been nothing but delightful. She was kind, helpful, full of excitement about the baby and the future. And yet, the doubt had been planted. The hours crept by, and Lisa's frustration grew. Finally, she decided she needed to act, even if it meant stepping on a few toes. She grabbed her phone and dialed the hospital, asking for Linda. "She's off the clock," the receptionist informed her. Lisa sighed, her heart sinking. Wherever Linda was, she'd have to wait to get more answers. But waiting wasn't an easy task when your gut told you something wasn't right. Observing Emily. For the next few days, Lisa found herself hyper-aware of Emily's every move. She started watching for subtle inconsistencies in her stories or moments where Emily seemed evasive. "So, what did the doctor say about your workout routine?" Lisa asked casually one morning as she sat across from Emily at the breakfast table. Emily paused mid-bite, looking thoughtful. "Oh, not much. Just that I should take it easy. You know, nothing too intense." She flashed a quick smile. Lisa hesitated but nodded. It wasn't an odd response, in fact it was completely reasonable, yet Lisa found herself scrutinizing every word, every expression. As the days went by, her curiosity morphed into a quiet determination to dig deeper. Unfortunately, Linda's vague warning had opened a Pandora's box. Lisa couldn't stop herself from imagining the worst. Was Emily hiding something? Or was Lisa overthinking everything? One thing was clear, Lisa needed to find Linda again, and this time, she wouldn't let the nurse walk away without giving a straight answer. A shocking revelation. Lisa couldn't take it anymore. The cryptic warning from Linda, the sleepless nights of doubt, and the growing unease every time she looked into Emily's overly cheerful smile were eating her alive. She needed answers, and she needed them now. Driving to St. Anthony's General Hospital late that Friday afternoon, Lisa gripped the steering wheel tightly, her palms clammy. The Texas sun was dipping lower in the sky, streaking oranges and purples across the horizon, but Lisa barely noticed it. Her mind was laser-focused on finding Linda and forcing the nurse to explain herself. When she marched into the hospital lobby, her shoes clicking against the polished floors, she felt a renewed sense of urgency. "Excuse me," she said to the young receptionist behind the counter. "Is Linda, I don't know her last name, but she's a nurse here. Blonde, round glasses, mid-20s, I need to speak with her." The receptionist raised an eyebrow. "Linda Taylor? She's on break right now. I think she's having coffee in the staff lounge, but—" Lisa didn't wait. She smiled briefly in acknowledgement and headed down the hallway determined to find her. A confrontation. The staff lounge door was slightly ajar, and through the gap, Lisa could see Linda sitting at a round table, sipping coffee from a bright pink thermos. Her face was buried in her phone, but she immediately tensed when she saw Lisa push the door open. "Linda," Lisa began, her voice steady but sharp, "we need to talk, and this time, I'm not letting you walk away without explaining what you meant." Linda's eyes grew wide with panic. She glanced around the empty lounge as though searching for an escape route. "Mrs. Parker, I really shouldn't have said anything, please just forget I mentioned it." Lisa took a step closer and folded her arms across her chest. "Forget it? You can't just throw a bombshell like that and expect me to forget. I've been losing sleep over this for days. If you know something about Emily, you owe it to me to explain. My son and a grandchild are involved here. Be honest, what's going on?" Linda exhaled slowly, setting her thermos down with a shaky hand. She looked at Lisa with a mix of guilt and unease. "This isn't easy for me, Mrs. Parker. I've been debating whether it's really my place to interfere, but I think you deserve to know the truth." Lisa's brow furrowed, her chest tightening. Her voice softened, but it carried the weight of desperation. "Linda, please, just tell me." Linda hesitated for a second longer before leaning forward, her tone hushed but firm. "Emily isn't pregnant." Lisa froze. The words didn't register at first. "What?" she breathed, almost laughing at the absurdity. "What are you talking about? Of course she's pregnant. I've been to the doctor visits. I've seen the ultrasound photos." Linda shook her head. "I work closely with Dr. Carter's team, especially the OB/GYN department. Emily hasn't undergone any real prenatal tests. Those ultrasound photos she showed you, I found out they aren't hers. They were taken from a general imaging archive we use for training purposes. It's all fake." Lisa's knees wobbled and she reached for the back of a chair to steady herself. No, you must be mistaken. That can't be true." Her voice was a mixture of disbelief and anger. "Why would Emily lie about this? What would she have to gain from something so cruel?" Linda hesitated, her lips pressed into a firm line. "I overheard her talking to someone on the phone in the staff hallway a few weeks ago. At first I didn't think much of it, but then she called out your name and mentioned something about making sure you stayed on her side. That's when I started paying attention. I realized she wasn't going to any real appointments, and all the records connected to her name were odd. No lab work, no insurance activity for tests a pregnant woman would normally need." Lisa's mind raced as she tried to make sense of this, her breath quickened. "Are you saying this whole pregnancy, it's just a lie?" Linda met her gaze, her expression full of sympathy. "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Parker. I think Emily is using you. You said it yourself. Your son, Michael, passed away. Emily might have seen this as an opportunity to manipulate you, knowing you'd cling to anything that felt like a connection to him. I don't know her true intentions, but I thought you needed to hear it from someone. A torn heart. The ride home was a blur of emotions for Lisa. Betrayal, confusion, anger, sadness. How could Emily do this to her? The woman who had become like a daughter to her, who had pulled her out of the darkest days of her grief, had been lying the entire time. By the time Lisa reached her driveway, the once familiar suburban home felt foreign, like it belonged to someone else entirely. The thought of stepping through that door and seeing Emily, pretending everything was fine, made Lisa sick to her stomach. She sat in the car with the engine off, staring at the house in silence, until the weight of the truth became too much to bear. The confrontation. Later that evening, Lisa paced wildly around the living room while Emily sat on the couch, her eyes wide with concern. "Lisa, what's wrong? You've been acting strange all night," Emily said softly, her hands fidgeting in her lap. Lisa stopped suddenly, turning to face her. "I went to the hospital today," she said flatly. Emily stiffened. "Oh, okay. Why? Is everything all right?" "No!" Lisa snapped, her voice trembling with anger. "Everything's not all right, Emily. I spoke to a nurse, Linda. She told me something unbelievable." Emily paled visibly but tried to maintain her composure. I don't understand what this is about." Lisa stepped closer, her eyes burning with emotion. "Stop it, Emily. I know the truth. You're not pregnant, are you?" The silence was deafening. Emily opened her mouth as though she wanted to deny it but quickly closed it again. Her eyes filled with tears. "Lisa, Don't lie to me!" Lisa shouted, her voice breaking. "How could you do this? After everything we've been through with Michael, how could you lie to my face day after day about something so precious?" Emily's tears spilled over as she buried her face in her hands. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she sobbed. "I was scared. At first I thought it might help us both. You needed something to hold on to after Michael, and I didn't want to lose you. I didn't want to lose this family." Lisa's hands shook. "So, you just made it up? You lied about my son's child? My grandchild?" Emily looked up, her face streaked with tears. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I thought I'd find a way to fix it before it got out of hand. I didn't want to hurt you. I swear I didn't." Lisa stared at her silently for a long moment, her heart shattered. Finally she spoke, her voice quieter but no less pained. "You didn't just hurt me, Emily. You broke something I don't know if I can forgive. You need to leave, tonight." The fallout. As Emily packed her things and left, Lisa sat alone in the house that now felt emptier than it ever had before. She stared at the framed photo of Michael on the mantel, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry, sweetheart," she whispered. "I thought she was someone we could trust. I thought she loved us." That night, Lisa climbed into bed, feeling the crushing weight of loss all over again. How could someone she had welcomed into her heart and home betray her in a way she never thought possible? And what would come next? A tense confrontation. The living room was thick with silence, the kind of silence that wasn't peaceful but brimming with suppressed emotion. Lisa paced back and forth, her hands clenching and unclenching at her sides, while Emily sat stiffly on the couch, her eyes following Lisa's movements with growing unease. Emily finally broke the silence, her voice soft and hesitant. "Lisa, is everything all right? You look—" "Don't." Lisa's voice was sharp, her pacing coming to an abrupt stop. She turned to face Emily, her face a mix of heartbreak and anger. "Don't ask me that, Emily. You know everything is not all right." Emily blinked, her hands gripping the edges of the couch cushion. I'm not sure what you mean," she said cautiously, her voice unsteady. "As if you don't know!" Lisa shot back, her voice rising. She shook her head in disbelief, her emotions bubbling out in a torrent. "I trusted you, Emily. I welcomed you into my family, into my heart." Her voice cracked with pain. "How could you? After everything we've been through together, how could you lie to me about something so important?" Emily's face paled visibly. "Lisa, please," she murmured, her tone pleading. "Let me explain." "Oh, I think I've heard enough explanations," Lisa interrupted, cutting her off. She grabbed a tissue from the coffee table and wrung it in frustration. "I went to the hospital today. I spoke to Linda. Do you know what she told me?" Emily froze, her mouth opening and closing as if searching for words. Her gaze dropped to the carpet as her hands fidgeted in her lap. "Lisa, I didn't mean for it to—" "She told me you're not pregnant!" Lisa shouted, her voice trembling, tears starting to stream down her face. Her hands shook as she pointed toward Emily. "She told me everything, Emily. That the ultrasounds you've been showing me aren't even real, that you've been faking this entire time." Emily's head snapped up, panic flashing across her face like a neon sign. It's not what you think," she stammered. but the crack in her voice betrayed her fear. "Not what I think," Lisa repeated bitterly, laughing in disbelief. "Then tell me, Emily, what is it? Were you just stringing me along, watching me believe I'd have my son's child just so you could, what, get close to me, manipulate me?" Emily stood abruptly, her hands outstretched as though she wanted to pacify Lisa. "I wasn't trying to hurt you, Lisa," she exclaimed, her voice breaking. "I swear it wasn't like that. I made a mistake, a huge mistake, but I never wanted this to go so far." Lisa's eyes narrowed, her breath shaky. "A mistake? This was more than just a mistake, Emily. This was calculated. You knew exactly what you were doing." "I didn't," Emily cried. "I didn't plan this, not in the beginning. I was lost, grieving Michael, just like you. And when I saw how much you needed something to hold on to, I thought maybe I could help." "Help?" Lisa's voice rose incredulous. "You thought lying to me about being pregnant with my son's child was helping? God, Emily, do you even hear yourself right now?" Emily lowered her hands slowly, her shoulders trembling. "At first, I thought it might help us both heal," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But then you were so happy, Lisa, and I didn't want to take that away from you. I didn't know how to fix it without breaking everything, without losing you." Lisa felt her chest tighten. The person standing in front of her was no longer the Emily she thought she knew, the kind, generous woman who had been her rock after Michael's death. Instead, she saw someone she didn't recognize, someone who had betrayed her trust in the most profound way. "You're telling me this wasn't deliberate?" Lisa asked, her tone sharp yet layered with pain. "You expect me to believe that all of this wasn't just one big act?" Emily shook her head vehemently, tears streaming down her face. "No, Lisa, I didn't plan on lying to you forever, I swear. I thought I could find a way to tell you the truth, but every time I tried, I saw how much hope the baby gave you. I was scared, Lisa. I thought you'd hate me." "Hate you?" Lisa's voice softened for a moment, but her anger quickly returned, sharp and unyielding. "Hate you? Emily, do you even understand what you've done? You didn't just lie to me, you lied about my son's child. You gave me hope, only to rip it away." Emily collapsed onto the couch, covering her face with her hands. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed, her voice muffled. "I never wanted this to happen. I love you, Lisa. I love this family. I didn't want to lose you." Lisa stood frozen, her arms limp at her sides. She wanted to believe Emily's words, to believe that this wasn't some cruel, calculated ploy, but the hurt was too deep, the trust too broken. "You didn't lose me, Emily," Lisa said finally, her voice low and trembling. "You destroyed everything we had. How could I ever trust you again after this?" Emily looked up at her, desperation etched in her tear-streaked face. "Please, Lisa, I'll do anything to make this right, anything, just tell me what to do." "I don't know if there's anything you can do," Lisa whispered, her eyes glassy. "You need to leave, Emily. Pack your things tonight." Emily froze, her lips trembling. "Leave?" "Yes." Lisa's tone was firm, but her pain was evident. "I can't keep looking at you knowing what you did. I can't heal if you're here. Lisa, please." "No!" Lisa's voice cracked, but she held her ground. "There's no coming back from this. Not right now, anyway. You need to go." The fallout. Emily packed quietly in the guest room that night, the only sounds coming from the soft humming of the ceiling fan, and the occasional sniffle as she wiped her tears. Lisa sat in the living room staring at an empty spot on the mantel where a family photo of her, Michael, and Emily once stood. The house seemed to echo the emptiness she felt in her heart. When Emily finally emerged with a suitcase, she stopped by the living room, hesitating. "Lisa," she began, her voice small, "I know you hate me right now, but I hope one day you'll understand how sorry I am." Lisa didn't look up. Her gaze was fixed on the mantel. "Goodbye, Emily," she said softly. Emily's footsteps faded as she walked out the door, leaving Lisa alone in the silence of the house. She sat there for hours, staring into the shadows, her mind replaying everything over and over again. How could she have been so blind? How could someone who had become like a daughter to her inflict so much pain? Lisa clutched a photo of Michael tightly to her chest, fresh tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart," she whispered. "I thought she was someone we could trust." That night, Lisa lay in bed, wondering how she would ever rebuild from the betrayal that had shattered her world. Legal action. Lisa sat at her kitchen table, the same table where she had once shared cherished meals with Michael and later Emily. Now the surface was littered with papers, printouts of emails, vague notes she had scribbled over the past few days, and a business card for a law office that Emily's deception had driven her to call. The sunlight filtered weakly through the curtains, casting long shadows over the mess in front of her. Her hands trembled as she picked up her phone to call the lawyer. She had gone back and forth on this decision too many times, torn between letting the betrayal fade quietly into her past and confronting the wrong that had been done. No more wavering, she thought. Enough is enough. "Good morning, Miss Parker," a woman's polite yet authoritative voice said on the other end of the line. "This is Susan Bailey, attorney at law. I received your message and wanted to discuss your case." Lisa took a deep breath. "Thank you for calling me back, Miss Bailey. I'm not really sure where to begin." "Start by telling me what happened," Susan said calmly. "Take your time." Lisa explained everything. The pregnancy announcement, the months of preparation with Emily, and the false hope she had clung to. Her voice cracked as she recounted how she had discovered the truth at the hospital, confronting Nurse Linda and ultimately Emily herself. Susan listened patiently, her occasional "I understand" offering quiet support as Lisa's story unfolded. When Lisa finally finished, she added, "I feel so naive, Miss Bailey. I opened my heart to this person, and now it feels like she shattered it. I honestly don't know what I'm supposed to do." Susan's tone turned firm but reassuring. "First of all, Miss Parker, this is not your fault. You believed someone you had every reason to trust. Second, you were clearly the victim of deception here, and if Emily gained anything, money, gifts, or material assets, because of that deception, we may have grounds for a legal case." Lisa chewed on her bottom lip, her stomach churning at the realization of what she was doing, pursuing legal action against the woman she had once considered family. So, what would that even look like? "I don't want to ruin her life, but she has to take responsibility for what she's done." The initial meeting. A week later, Lisa made her way to Susan Bailey's office, a modest yet professional space in downtown Austin. It was a cool autumn morning, and Lisa hugged her cardigan tightly around her as she walked through the lobby, her nerves jangling with every step. Inside, Susan greeted her with a firm handshake and a cup of herbal tea. "Let's get comfortable," she said, motioning to a chair across from her desk. "I've had a chance to review the details you provided. Let's talk about what we're aiming to achieve here." Lisa nodded, her fingers curling around the warm mug of tea. "I don't want revenge," she began cautiously. I need her to face the consequences. She took advantage of my grief. She used Michael's memory, used my son to manipulate me, and it's not right." Susan leaned forward slightly, her piercing hazel eyes meeting Lisa's. "Understood. So here's what we'll focus on. We can pursue a case for fraud. Fraud involves intentionally deceiving someone for personal gain, and from what you've told me, it sounds like Emily may qualify. We'd need to establish exactly what she gained from the deception." Lisa tilted her head. "But she didn't exactly take money. I mean, I helped her out here and there, groceries, things for the baby, but I'm not sure if that counts." Susan tapped her pen thoughtfully against her notepad. "It doesn't have to be direct financial fraud. If Emily accepted your support, knowing full well it was based on a lie, that could strengthen the case. Emotional damage also isn't something we ignore. You've suffered. There's no dollar amount for that, but we can present it in court as a significant factor." Lisa hesitated. I don't want this to become ugly. I don't want to drag Michael's name through the mud." "That's a valid concern," Susan said, her voice softening, "but we can present this case in a way that respects his memory. The focus will be on holding Emily accountable, not sensationalizing your family's tragedy." Lisa let out a slow breath. "All right. And what would happen to her if we win?" "Well," Susan said tightly, "that depends. She could be required to repay you for expenses, face a fraud charge, or even receive community service. I don't anticipate prison for a case like this, but if it goes to trial, the court decides." Lisa swallowed hard and nodded. "Okay, let's do it." The preparation. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of meetings, paperwork, and detailed record-keeping. Lisa combed through her bank statements and receipts, marking any expenses tied to Emily or the supposed pregnancy. At one point, Susan called her with an update about hospital records. "We subpoenaed the clinic," she explained, her voice firm and professional. "There's no history of Emily ever being treated as an OB/GYN patient. And those ultrasound photos? They were pulled straight from training materials, just like Linda said." Hearing it confirmed in black and white set Lisa's nerves on edge. "I just don't understand why she did this," she said, pacing in her living room during the call. Susan's voice softened. "Sometimes desperate people make choices that snowball out of control. It doesn't excuse what she did, but her actions were guided by her own fear and selfishness. You, however, have every right to seek justice." Serving Emily. The day the legal papers were served to Emily was bittersweet for Lisa. She sat by her window, staring out at the driveway, knowing Emily was only minutes away from discovering the lawsuit. When the server knocked on Emily's apartment door, Lisa imagined her shock, the confusion, the panic. Part of her worried Emily might retaliate, but another part felt vindicated. Hours later, Lisa's phone buzzed with an incoming call from an unknown number. Her stomach turned, and she hesitated before answering. "Lisa," Emily's voice came through, shaky and verging on tears. "How could you do this? A lawsuit? Are you trying to ruin my life?" Lisa gripped the phone tighter. "Emily, you've already ruined mine. This isn't about revenge, it's about accountability. I trusted you. I loved you like a daughter. And you betrayed all of that." "I was grieving too," Emily cried. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I made mistakes, big mistakes, but I didn't intend for this to go so far." "And yet you let it," Lisa replied coldly. "You lied to me for months. If you had come clean, maybe, just maybe, I could have forgiven you. But you didn't, and now you have to face the consequences." Emily sobbed quietly on the other end, but Lisa didn't waver. "This isn't personal anymore, Emily, it's legal," Lisa said firmly. "You manipulated me, and there are laws to protect people from exactly this kind of deceit. I hope you learn something from this." The road ahead. The case moved forward, and as Lisa worked through the legal process, she began to feel something she hadn't felt in a long time: empowerment. This wasn't about tearing Emily down, it was about rebuilding herself, standing up for what was right, and defending the memory of her son. As Lisa walked into the courthouse for the first hearing, she carried her head a little higher. Emily may have tried to exploit her grief, but Lisa wouldn't let the betrayal define her. Michael's picture was tucked into her wallet, his smile giving her strength. "Let's do this," Lisa whispered to herself. Healing through new connections. The house was unnervingly quiet now. After weeks of legal turmoil, sleepless nights, and raw, unrelenting emotions, calm had finally returned, at least on the surface. But Lisa wasn't sure what to do with herself anymore. The routines she had built, the time she had spent preparing for the arrival of a baby that never was, it left a void in her life she didn't know how to fill. That silence, though, was broken one crisp November afternoon when the doorbell rang. Lisa, wearing her softest cardigan and holding a mug of lukewarm tea, shuffled to the door. Standing on the porch was a familiar, hesitant face. "Linda?" Lisa said, blinking in surprise. The young nurse stood there in her casual jeans and sweatshirt, looking a far cry from the confident figure Lisa first met at the hospital. She was holding a basket, filled with a jar of cookies, some fresh oranges, and a loaf of bread that looked homemade. Her curls fanned out from under a knitted beanie, and her round glasses fogged slightly in the chilly breeze. "Hi, Mrs. Parker. I wanted to check on you," Linda said, her shy demeanor giving away her uncertainty. "Check on me?" Lisa stepped aside and motioned her in instinctively, though her brow furrowed slightly in confusion. Linda took a step inside, glancing around at the cozy but slightly cluttered living room. "Yeah. I guess I was just worried about you. After everything, I know it's not my place, but I couldn't stop thinking about you. You seemed alone." She shifted awkwardly. "I figured I'd bring some things I baked, just in case you're not really eating well." Lisa's lips parted in surprise. "Oh, Linda," she said softly. "That's so thoughtful of you." She stepped toward her, touched by an unexpected wave of gratitude. For a moment she didn't know what moved her more, the gesture itself or the simple fact that someone cared enough to reach out. "You didn't have to do that," Lisa continued, her voice faltering as she motioned Linda toward the kitchen. "But, thank you. It's been a lot." Linda nodded solemnly, following Lisa to the table and setting down the basket. She hesitated before blurting, "I know you probably hate me. I mean, I'm the one who told you about Emily. Who caused all this?" Lisa paused mid-step and turned slowly, shaking her head. "Hate you? Linda, no. You just told me the truth, something I needed to hear, even if I didn't want to." She shrugged sadly, pulling out a chair. "It's not your fault." Linda fidgeted with the hem of her sweatshirt. I feel a little responsible, like I ripped the bandage off too fast." Lisa gave her a small, bittersweet smile. "There's no such thing as the right time for the truth, is there?" She motioned for Linda to sit. "Anyway, you probably saved me years of heartache that would have only gotten worse. For that, I'm grateful." A spark of comfort. Their initial conversation was cautious and slow, punctuated by the sound of Lisa pouring tea into two mismatched mugs. Over sips of chamomile, the two women began to talk. Linda eventually confessed bits and pieces about her own life, how, as a child growing up in a chaotic household with an emotionally absent mother, she had often had to fend for herself. "Hospitals feel more like home to me than my actual childhood home ever did," Linda admitted with a nervous laugh. Lisa surprisingly found herself deeply moved. "That must have been difficult," she said softly, her eyes filled with genuine empathy. For all of her own pain, Lisa realized, she wasn't the only one carrying the weight of the past. She reached across the table to touch Linda's hand. "You're a remarkably strong young woman, you know that?" Linda's cheeks flushed slightly. "I don't know about that. I just... keep going. It's all you can do, right?" Lisa nodded, squeezing her hand. "Yes, but that doesn't mean you have to do it alone." A growing bond. Over the weeks that followed, Linda became an unexpected fixture in Lisa's life. What started as occasional visits grew into a natural rhythm. Linda would stop by after work with groceries or a bouquet of wildflowers she found at the farmer's market. On Sundays, Lisa would invite Linda for tea or ask if she wanted to stay for dinner. One snowy December evening, they sat curled up on the living room couch watching an old movie and nibbling on salted caramel popcorn. Linda laughed at one of the film's more ridiculous moments, and Lisa couldn't help but smile. For the first time in months, the house felt light again. "As odd as this may sound," Lisa began, glancing over at Linda, "I feel like I was meant to meet you, like the universe knew I needed someone like you in my life." Linda looked genuinely taken aback. "Wow," she said, blinking. "I don't even know what to say except, I kind of feel the same way." She grinned sheepishly. "It's good to feel wanted, you know, like I matter to someone." Lisa tilted her head. "You do matter. And if anyone hasn't told you that before, let me be the first to say it. You've brought something back to my life that I thought was gone after Michael." Linda swallowed hard, visibly touched. "Thank you, Lisa. That means more than I can put into words." A new sense of family. As their bond deepened, Lisa began to see Linda as more than just a caring young woman who helped her heal. She became family, a daughter of sorts. One wintry morning, as they decorated the Christmas tree together, Lisa hesitated before speaking. "Linda," she began, her voice cautious but warm, "I know you're busy with your career and your life, but if you'd ever consider it, I'd like to make this more official." Linda paused midway through hanging an ornament. "Official?" Lisa offered a small, tentative smile. "I mean, I'd like to formally ask you to be a part of my family, as my daughter." For a moment, Linda simply stared, her eyes wide and glistening with emotion. "Lisa, are you serious?" Lisa nodded, stepping closer. "You filled a piece of my soul I didn't even know was missing, and I think we both could use a family again." With tears streaming down her cheeks, Linda threw her arms around Lisa. "You have no idea how much this means to me," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I never thought I'd have something like this, a real family." Lisa held her tightly, her own tears falling freely now. "We're family," Lisa whispered. "No conditions, no blood necessary, just love. The beginning of healing." In the months that followed, Lisa and Linda grew closer than ever. Their bond gave both women a new sense of hope, a reason to wake up each morning and find purpose in the little moments of life. They cooked together, shared stories, and even started a small charity project in Michael's honor, sending care packages to grieving families at local hospitals. Through this, Lisa found meaning beyond her pain as she honored her son's legacy by spreading kindness. Linda's warmth, humor, and compassion became the antidote to Lisa's heartbreak. Together they built something beautiful, something real, and for Lisa the greatest lesson of it all was clear. Family isn't just about who you're born with. Sometimes it's about who chooses to stay. A mother-daughter bond blossoms. The morning air was crisp, a cool breeze sweeping through the oak trees outside Lisa's home. She was sitting at her kitchen table, sipping her morning coffee, lost in thought as the steam curled slowly above the mug. Life had begun to settle into a rhythm again, but it was a rhythm she hadn't expected, a quieter, gentler one, shared now with Linda, who had become an integral part of her life. Linda, dressed in casual jeans and an oversized knit sweater, appeared in the doorway, holding 2 plates of warm pancakes. "Hope you're hungry. I made them the way you like, with blueberries and just a hint of cinnamon," she said with a cheerful grin, placing the plates down on the table. Lisa looked up, a smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "You didn't have to do that, Linda, but you are really making it easy to get spoiled." "Well," Linda said with a playful shrug, taking her seat, "I have to keep up my reputation as the unofficial chef around here. Besides, I kind of like knowing you're eating something other than toast and tea for breakfast." They both laughed softly, but there was warmth beneath the humor. Over the past few months, these little moments of care had become the cornerstone of their bond. An unexpected role. As they ate, Lisa broke the silence. You know, it's been years since I've seen anyone fuss over me like this. I guess I've always been the one doing the worrying, the cooking, the offering. It's strange, but nice. Linda looked up, her fork pausing mid-air. Honestly, it feels good for me too. I've spent so much of my life trying to keep my distance from people. I think I was scared of letting anyone down. But with you, she hesitated, her voice dropping slightly. With you it feels right. Like I'm finally part of something real. The vulnerability in Linda's voice caught Lisa off guard. Rarely had either of them voiced just how much the other had come to mean, but here it was. That raw honesty that had slowly become the foundation of something more than friendship. Linda, Lisa said after a long pause, her voice soft but steady, do you see yourself as part of this family? Because I want you to know, I already do. You're not just someone who stops by or helps out, you're someone I truly care for. Linda's face lit up, but her eyes shimmered with the unmistakable gloss of tears. Lisa, Her voice cracked and she swallowed hard, her hand lightly resting on the edge of the table. There's a part of me that always wanted to have something like this. A connection like this. But I thought people like me didn't get that kind of love, at least not for long. Lisa reached across the table, placing her hand gently over Linda's. People like you? What's that supposed to mean? Someone kind, smart, ridiculously patient with me when I have a bad day? Linda chuckled through her tears, dabbing her cheeks with her sleeve. You know what I mean. I've always felt like I wasn't enough. Like maybe I'd never have a family of my own. Lisa's expression softened further. Family doesn't just mean the people who raised you. Family is about the people who choose to stay, the people who see you at your worst and love you still. If you're afraid of being unwanted, Linda, let me tell you right now, there's not a single moment where you have to feel that way with me. A heartfelt proposition. That evening, after cleaning up dinner and sharing a rare glass of wine together, Lisa approached Linda in the living room. The fireplace cast a warm glow over the room, making the space feel even cozier. Linda was curled up on the couch with a book, but she glanced up when Lisa cleared her throat. Linda, Lisa began nervously, clutching the edges of her cardigan. I've been thinking about something for a while now, and I want to ask you something big. Linda set down the book, her brow furrowing with curiosity. What is it, Lisa? You're kind of scaring me. Lisa laughed nervously. No, it's nothing bad. Well, at least I hope it's not. She took a deep breath and sat down beside Linda. You know how we've spent these past few months getting to know each other, caring for each other? And how you've told me how much this has meant to you? Linda nodded. Of course. Why? Well, Lisa began, her voice trembling slightly, I asked myself, why should this connection stop at just being friends who mean a lot to each other? Linda, I want to ask you, would you consider letting me adopt you as my daughter? For a split second, Linda didn't move. Her eyes widened in shock, her mouth slightly open as if she wasn't sure she had heard correctly. Adopt me? She finally managed to whisper, her voice trembling. Lisa nodded, her nervous energy bubbling over into soft, rapid speech. I know it's not traditional, I know it might seem crazy, but when I look at you, I feel like you're the daughter I never had. You've helped me heal in ways I didn't think were possible, and I want you to feel like you belong here, not just as Linda, but as part of this family, officially. Linda pressed her hands to her mouth, tears streaming down her cheeks. For several moments she couldn't speak. Then her voice choked with emotion, she whispered, Lisa, I don't even know what to say. I mean, are you serious? You'd really want me as your daughter? Lisa placed her hands gently over Linda's. You're already my daughter in every way that matters, except on paper. I just want to make it real. You filled a hole in my heart I never thought could heal after Michael, and you deserve to feel loved and wanted in every way. Linda threw her arms around Lisa, sobbing into her shoulder. Yes, she whispered. Yes, 1,000 times yes. I would love nothing more than to be your daughter. Lisa held her tightly, tears running freely down her own cheeks. Then it's settled. You're not just Linda. You're my Linda. The next chapter. The following weeks were filled with paperwork, phone calls, and meetings with lawyers to formalize the adoption. The process wasn't easy, but it was worth every second. When the day of the court hearing finally arrived, Linda stood by Lisa, the two of them dressed in their Sunday best. The judge reviewed the case, smiling warmly as he stamped the final papers. Congratulations, the judge said, looking at them both. It's official. Linda turned to Lisa, her face glowing with joy. We're legally mother and daughter now, she said, the words almost bubbling out of her in disbelief. Lisa grinned, pulling Linda into a tight hug. We always were, this just makes it official." From that day on, Lisa and Linda's bond only deepened. They found a new rhythm in life as mother and daughter, one filled with shared breakfasts, movie nights and spontaneous trips to the local farmer's market. To them, family wasn't defined by blood, but by love, trust, and the courage to create something beautiful from the broken pieces of their lives. A new beginning. The morning light streamed through the soft lace curtains, casting warm golden patterns onto the hardwood floor of Lisa's kitchen. She stood at the sink, rinsing a handful of strawberries, her movements calm but methodical. After everything the past year had thrown at her, there was finally a sense of peace in her daily routine. The house no longer felt as daunting or as empty as it once had, and all of that was thanks to Linda. But today promised something new, something neither of them was entirely prepared for. "Do you need help with anything?" Linda's voice floated into the kitchen as she appeared in the doorway. She was dressed casually in jeans and a light sweater, her auburn curls tucked behind her ears neatly, though they always managed to spring free. The way she carried herself now was different, poised but warmer, more at ease with herself. Lisa shook her head with a small smile. "I've got it under control. You've done enough already." "You say that like I haven't done the bare minimum," Linda teased, walking over to grab a cup of coffee Lisa had already poured for her. Setting the strawberries aside, Lisa turned to face Linda, folding her arms lightly. "You've done more than enough, Linda, and you know it. You made this house a home again." Linda paused mid-sip, her expression softening as she met Lisa's eyes. "You give me too much credit, Lisa. You've always had a warm heart. It just needed some dusting off." "Dusting off, huh?" Lisa quipped, shaking her head as she headed for the fridge. "You sure know how to flatter an old woman like me." Linda rolled her eyes and flopped into one of the kitchen chairs, her carefree grin illuminating the room. "You're not old, Lisa. Stop saying that. You're seasoned." "Seasoned? Like a steak?" Lisa let out a hearty laugh. The sound of their shared laughter echoed warmly, filling the space that once seemed far too quiet. Fate steps. And later that week, Linda came home with unexpected news. Her cheeks slightly flushed with excitement but an edge of nerves flickering in her expression. Lisa was sitting on the porch swing, a book in hand, when Linda approached slowly. "Hey, Lisa?" Linda started hesitantly, tucking her hands into her jean pockets. Looking up, Lisa immediately sensed there was something on her mind. "You've got that look again. The one that says something's going on. Spill it." Linda chuckled nervously, fiddling with the edge of her sleeve. "Okay, but promise you won't laugh." "I can't make promises I might not keep," Lisa said with a playful smirk, patting the spot on the swing beside her. Taking the seat, Linda took a deep breath. "I went to one of the hospital's seminars today. It was one of those continuing education things, all about community outreach and patient care." Lisa tilted her head, waiting. "Okay. And I met someone," Linda blurted out, her cheeks instantly flushing deeper. Lisa immediately perked up, her eyebrows shooting up amusedly. "Met someone? Linda, why does this sound like the beginning of a Hallmark movie?" "Stop," Linda groaned, laughing despite herself. "It's not like that, I promise. His name's Ethan. He's one of the speakers. He's a doctor who works with underserved communities. And, I don't know. We talked for a bit and he invited me to coffee tomorrow after my shift." Lisa's grin widened. Well, look at you. You've got yourself a doctor who cares about people. That's a win, Linda, whether you realize it or not." Linda bit her lip, shaking her head slightly. "It's just coffee, don't get your hopes up." "Linda, my hopes are always up for you, but coffee is where things start, you know. It could be nothing or it could be everything," Lisa said, leaning closer in a conspiratorial tone. "Either way, you have to go and tell me all about it later." Linda couldn't help but laugh. "You're impossible, Lisa." "Impossible and seasoned," Lisa quipped, and they both laughed until their sides hurt. The start of something new. Weeks turned into months, and Ethan was no longer just the guy from coffee. He quickly became a part of Linda's life, and by extension a part of Lisa's life too. "What do you think of him, honestly?" Linda asked one evening in the kitchen, watching Lisa as she stirred a pot of soup on the stove. Lisa played coy, her back still to Linda. "You really want to know what I think?" "Of course I do," Linda said, setting her glass of water down on the counter with a light thud. Turning around, Lisa smiled warmly. "I think he's good for you. He's got that kind-hearted energy, doesn't he? The way he talks to people, the calm way he carries himself around you. You deserve that, Linda, someone who sees how special you are." Linda blushed but didn't deny it. "You really think so?" "I do," Lisa said simply, "but more importantly, you need to think so." She stepped closer, placing her hand gently on Linda's shoulder. "You've been through a lot. Don't let it hold you back from happiness when it's staring you in the face. A family expands. 2 years later, Lisa found herself seated in the front pew of a small but beautifully decorated church. Linda stood at the altar in a simple yet stunning white gown, her auburn curls framing her glowing face as she exchanged vows with Ethan. Lisa had tears streaming down her face, but they were happy tears this time. Watching Linda grow, heal, and find a love that filled her with confidence and joy was the kind of miracle Lisa hadn't thought she'd witness again. A part of her believed Michael would be smiling down, proud of how their world had healed in such unexpected ways. After the ceremony, Lisa beamed as she held Ethan's hands in hers. "You take care of her, you hear me?" she said with mock seriousness, her eyes sparkling. "Yes, ma'am," Ethan replied with a warm smile. "I promise." Linda appeared beside them, wrapping an arm around Lisa. "And I'll take care of her too. She's stuck with me." Lisa laughed, her heart full. "I wouldn't want it any other way." The joy of new life. A year after the wedding, Linda and Ethan sat Lisa down in the cozy living room during one of their regular Sunday dinners. Linda's expression was calm, but there was a nervous flicker in her eyes. "What's going on?" Lisa asked, setting her glass of iced tea down beside her plate. Linda reached for Ethan's hand before answering. "We have some news." Lisa's eyes darted between them, her heart beginning to pound. "Okay, what kind of news?" Ethan smiled warmly. "We're having a baby, Lisa." The room fell silent for a moment before Lisa burst into joyous laughter. Tears prickled at her eyes as she got up and hugged them both at once. "A grandbaby!" she exclaimed. "I'm going to be a grandmother!" Linda laughed as Lisa continued to tearfully gush. "I cannot tell you how happy this makes me," Lisa said, holding Linda's face between her hands. "You have no idea." Lisa's new role. Months later, Lisa would find herself sitting once again at her kitchen table with a tiny pink newborn cradled in her arms. Little Maddie, as they had named her, let out soft coos as Lisa watched her with awe, rocking her gently. "Hello, sweet girl," Lisa whispered, a tear slipping down her cheek. "You have no idea how much light you're bringing into this family." Linda leaned against the kitchen doorway, watching with a smile. "She's already smitten with you, you know." "Well, she should be," Lisa replied with a mischievous grin. "Her grandma's got some stories to tell her one day." Linda chuckled, but nodded. "You mean it, don't you?" "Linda," Lisa said softly, looking up with misty eyes. "I mean every word. Just like I meant it when I told you that family isn't about blood. It's about love. You proved that to me. And now, Maddie's going to grow up surrounded by more love than she'll ever know what to do with." "Yes, she will," Linda said, pulling up a chair next to Lisa and gently brushing Maddie's tiny hand with her finger. And so, surrounded by warmth, love, and decades worth of lessons passed down, Lisa finally felt like the circle had closed. This wasn't just a new beginning, it was the life she and Linda had built, a family shaped by resilience, trust, and endless love. Complete happiness. The golden light of an early summer morning bathed the backyard in warmth, dewdrops catching the sunlight and sparkling on the green blades of grass. Lisa sat on the porch swing, gently swaying back and forth, her hands wrapped around a steaming mug of tea. From her vantage point she could see Linda kneeling in the garden, her hands buried in the soil as she carefully planted a row of sunflowers. Next to her, little Maddie toddled clumsily around the yard, giggling every time she picked a clover or stumbled over her own tiny shoes. "Careful, Maddie!" Linda called out, brushing a strand of auburn hair from her face as she laughed. "You're going to catch those clovers faster than I can plant these flowers." Maddie giggled louder and held up her handful of clovers triumphantly. "Look, Mama, flowers for Grandma!" Hearing her name, Lisa let out a deep, joyful laugh and patted the space on the swing next to her. "Oh, Maddie, come here, sweetheart, let me see what you've picked." Maddie waddled over, her chubby toddler hands full of crushed clovers. She placed them proudly in Lisa's lap and grinned, her little face rosy from the morning light. Lisa reached down to tuck a stray hair behind Maddie's ear, her heart swelling with something that felt an awful lot like pure, unfiltered happiness. "Thank you, my darling," Lisa said, her voice warm, cradling the clovers as if they were the most beautiful bouquet in the world. "You always bring me the prettiest treasures." Linda wiped her hands on her jeans and walked over, pausing to lean against the porch railing and take in the scene. "She's obsessed with giving you clovers, you know," Linda said with a smile. "You're officially her favorite person." Lisa raised an eyebrow playfully. "And what's wrong with that? Grandma's gotta have her moment, doesn't she?" Linda laughed, stepping up onto the porch and sinking into the swing next to her. The three of them sat there for a moment, the swing swaying gently, as Maddie rested her head in Lisa's lap, her little fingers playing with the hem of Lisa's sweater, the beauty of everyday life. "I still can't believe how much has changed," Linda said softly after a pause, her gaze drifting toward the garden. "When I think about the day I knocked on your door with that basket of bread, I never imagined I'd end up here with a family, a home, and—" She gestured at Maddie, who was now snoozing softly in Lisa's lap. "Her." Lisa smiled, her eyes misting over slightly. "That day changed my life too, Linda," she replied. "I had no idea I needed you until you showed up. You didn't just walk into my home with that basket. You brought kindness, hope, and healing when I thought all of that was long gone for me." For a moment, there was only the sound of the wind rustling through the trees. Then Linda sighed and leaned her head back against the swing. "Do you think Michael would have liked this?" she asked, her voice filled with quiet longing. "The life we've built?" Lisa's smile faltered slightly, but it quickly returned, soft and full of reflection. "Oh, Linda," she said, brushing her fingers through Maddie's hair, "Michael would have loved this. He would have adored seeing you as a mom, and he'd be so proud of the family you've created. He always wanted the people he loved to be happy. That was just who he was, and I know he's smiling somewhere, watching us now." Linda's eyes brimmed with tears, but she nodded, her lips curving into a smile. "I hope so," she whispered. "A multi-generational love." As the sound of the wind chimes clinking in the breeze filled the silence, Ethan stepped out of the house, holding a pitcher of homemade lemonade in one hand and 2 glasses in the other. "Am I interrupting?" he asked, a teasing grin on his face as his eyes flicked to Maddie, who was still sound asleep on Lisa's lap. "Not at all," Linda said, patting the space on the porch railing. "Come join the maternal bonding circle." Ethan chuckled, handing the glasses of lemonade to Lisa and Linda before taking a sip straight from the pitcher. "Circle of wisdom, you mean," he said with a wink. "When the 3 of you are together, magic practically happens." Lisa wagged a finger at him. "Careful now, Ethan. You're starting to sound like you're buttering us up for something." Ethan leaned casually against the railing, looking out at the garden as he smiled. "I'm just appreciating what we have," he said after a moment. "Not everyone gets this, a family that sticks together. I don't take it for granted." Lisa reached out and touched his arm gently. "Neither do I," she said. A full table. That evening, the house came alive with warmth and laughter as they shared dinner together. The dining room table was set with mismatched plates and linens, a mix of old and new that felt just right for the home they'd created. Maddie sat in her high chair, happily smearing mashed potatoes across her bib, while Lisa and Ethan laughed at her antics. Linda brought out a pie she had baked earlier, setting it on the table with a flourish. "Blueberry," Linda said proudly. "I figured we needed something sweet to end the day." "You're starting to spoil us," Lisa teased as she reached for a knife to cut the pie. "You deserve it," Linda countered, handing her a plate. As everyone began to eat, the conversation turned to stories of Michael, of Linda's journey, and of all the little moments that had brought them to this point. Maddie babbled happily, her small voice mingling with their laughter. Ethan leaned back in his chair, taking it all in. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "this isn't the life I imagined for myself, but somehow it's better. I didn't realize how much I needed this until it happened." Linda reached for his hand across the table, her eyes soft with affection. "Me neither," she said. Lisa watched the two of them, her heart swelling. She thought about all the loss she had endured, the pain of losing Michael, and the betrayal she had faced. But somehow, through all of that, she had found this: a family, a purpose, a future filled with love, a promise for the future. Later that night, after the dishes had been washed and Maddie had been tucked into bed, Lisa and Linda found themselves back on the porch swing. The fireflies blinked in the distance and the scent of freshly cut grass lingered in the air. Linda turned to Lisa, her voice soft. "I never said this before, but thank you. For everything. For believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. For giving me a chance to be part of your family." Lisa smiled, her hand resting on Linda's. "You were never just a chance, Linda. You were a gift, one I didn't know I needed until you were here." "And Maddie?" Linda asked. Lisa chuckled softly. "Oh, Maddie's just the cherry on top of this sundae. That little girl is going to grow up surrounded by more love than she'll know what to do with. Because that's what we do. We're family." Linda nodded, her eyes glimmering with unshed tears. "Yes, we are." The two of them sat in comfortable silence, the quiet of the night wrapping around them like a warm blanket. Somewhere in the distance, a soft owl hoot broke the stillness, but the peace remained. For Lisa, the happiness filling her heart wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, steady, and complete. The kind of happiness that comes from hard-fought healing, from choosing to move forward, from finding beauty in the people you call your own. At that moment, there was nothing left to want. Everything felt whole. Ending and hope. The late afternoon sun stretched lazily over the horizon, casting golden hues across the living room. Lisa sat in her favorite armchair near the window, watching the light glint off the glass photo frames lining the mantel. The house was quiet now, a peaceful kind of quiet, not the stillness of loneliness she had once known. This quiet carried a sense of accomplishment, the hum of a life well lived and a future promising more than she'd ever dared to dream. Linda walked in, barefoot, holding 2 steaming cups of tea. She handed one to Lisa before settling down on the couch with her own. Her hair was up in a messy bun, and the faint smell of lavender tea filled the air. "You look lost in thought again," Linda said, smiling gently over the rim of her mug. "What's on your mind, Lisa?" Lisa glanced her way, her eyes soft but shimmering with unspoken emotions. "I was just thinking," she began, her voice steady yet reflective, "about everything that's happened. Michael, how far we've come, where we are now, and where we're going. It's a lot to take in sometimes." Linda leaned back into the couch cushions, cradling the mug in her lap. "Life's funny that way, isn't it?" she said softly. "You think it's given you everything it can, good or bad, and then it surprises you, throws in a little hope when you're least expecting it." Lisa chuckled lightly at Linda's words. "It really does. I never thought I'd come out on the other side of all that loss. There were days, weeks, years where it felt too heavy to carry. And now?" She paused, looking out the window at the yard where little Maddie played with an armful of daisies. "Now I sit here and think, how did I get so lucky to have this life? To have you, to have Maddie. It feels complete." Linda's eyes filled with emotion as she smiled warmly at Lisa. "You gave yourself that life, Lisa," she said earnestly. "It wasn't handed to you. It's the life you rebuilt piece by piece. And if anyone earned what we have now, it's you." A moment of reflection. The 2 women sat in companionable silence for a while, sipping their tea. The sunlight faded into shades of amber and rose, creating streaks of gentle warmth that painted the walls. Slowly, Lisa leaned forward to set down her cup and pick up a framed photo of Michael, softly smiling back at her from a past that, while distant, still felt tangible. "You know," Lisa began quietly, turning the frame in her hands, "every time I feel like I've settled into this happiness, I think about him. I think about how much I wish Michael could have seen all this, seen Maddie grow up, seen how you flourished, seen me learning to be happy again. It feels unfair sometimes." Linda perched on the edge of the couch, her voice careful but tender. "Lisa, I think he does see it. I think he's with us in all the little things, the flowers Maddie picks, the way the house seems alive with laughter now, even the way you smile when you talk about him. His love is still part of this family, it's not gone." Lisa nodded, staring at Michael's picture for another long moment before placing it back where it belonged, on the mantel alongside photos of Linda holding baby Maddie and a framed drawing Maddie had scribbled the week before. "You're right," Lisa said, letting out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "When I see all of this, I know he'd be happy. He'd be proud of us for keeping each other strong." Legacy of kindness. The conversation shifted as Linda leaned back, the atmosphere between them lighter now. "You know," Linda said suddenly, her voice laced with curiosity, "I was thinking about that charity idea we talked about a few months ago, the one in Michael's honor. Do you ever think it's something we could really do?" Lisa tilted her head thoughtfully. "I used to think those kinds of dreams were for other people, not us," she said with a wistful smile. "But I've stopped thinking like that. I think it's time to give it a shot." Linda's face brightened. "Really? You mean it?" "Absolutely," Lisa replied firmly. "Michael believed in giving, in helping. Starting a foundation or even just a small community project. If that's how we can honor him and make the world a little brighter, then, yes, let's do it." Linda's enthusiasm was contagious. "We could organize care packages for families in the hospital, those going through tough times. Imagine sending out little pieces of love and hope to people who need it, just like you and I needed it back then." Lisa smiled, picturing it clearly. "It's perfect. And maybe Maddie can help too when she gets older. That kind of kindness, it's something you pass down." Looking to tomorrow. Just then, the door swung open, and Ethan walked in, holding Maddie, who had her little hands wrapped tightly around his neck. "We found daisies!" Maddie announced loudly, beaming as Ethan set her down on the floor. She ran over to Lisa and Linda, holding her flowers up proudly again. Lisa pulled Maddie onto her lap, brushing a strand of blonde hair out of her face. "More treasures for Grandma, huh?" she said with a smile. "You always know where to find the best ones." "Only for you," Maddie giggled, burying her face in Lisa's chest in a way that made Lisa's heart melt all over again. Ethan leaned against the doorway, watching them with a quiet smile. "You know," he said, his voice breaking into their moment. "This is what everyone dreams of, isn't it? A house filled with love, laughter, and daisies picked by the most determined 3-year-old I've ever met." Lisa looked up at Ethan with a grin. "If this is the dream," she said, "then I'm not waking up." Linda reached over to squeeze Lisa's hand gently. "No one's waking up from this dream, Lisa. It's real. It's ours." The closing chapter hours. Later, after dinner had been cleared and Maddie tucked snugly into bed, Lisa found herself on the porch once again with Linda. The stars were scattered across the clear Texas sky, and the soft chirping of crickets filled the night air. "When you think about the future, Linda, what do you see?" Lisa asked softly. Linda sat back, wrapping her hands around her mug of tea. "I see more of this," she said with certainty. "I see Maddie growing up in the kind of family I never thought I'd have. I see us helping people with the charity. I see you smiling as big as you are now. I see hope." Lisa nodded, staring out at the dark outlines of the oak trees in the yard. "Hope," she echoed. "It's such a small word, but it carries so much, doesn't it?" "It does," Linda agreed. Lisa turned to face her, her expression soft yet resolute. "Then let's hold on to that, no matter what comes. Let's keep building, keep growing. Let's make sure this family, this life we've created, stays full of that hope." Linda's lips curved into the warmest smile, one full of love and gratitude. "Always, Lisa," she said. "Always." Sitting there together under the stars, their hearts full and their spirits entwined, Lisa and Linda realized they weren't just living a new beginning. They were crafting a legacy. With every choice, every laugh, and every display of compassion, they were proving that even after loss and heartbreak, happiness could flourish, and hope could carry them forward. And for Lisa, that was enough.